Good evening, everyone. This is Joe Henches with Beyond the Chart, and this is a stock market analysis for today. Today is Wednesday, May 21st, 2014, and this is our Wednesday night walk through the BRIC countries, stroll through the BRIC countries. So we're going to start off with our market first. The Dow is up 158 points today, a whopping 158.79 points, and basically gained back everything that we had lost and then some from yesterday. So I mean, here we are, and as I mentioned in the post, here's April 22nd, and we've just chopped up, down, and back. And we're down like 33 points over the last 4 weeks, since April 22nd. So we've gone sideways, and no real trend in place. As I mentioned in there, when you look at the ADX, which is this small line right here, it's 12. Okay, let me blow it up for you. You gotten really low down here, and now we're rising. We're not even close to having any kind of a trend action going on or anything with the ADX. So that's the way that looks. We've got DI minus above DI plus, so that's a negative. Let's see. This has bounced back. The RSI is above 50, but that's just because of the action today. So we'll just have to see where we go from here. The 10 has broken below the 21, and we'll see if that's going to mean anything. Now, there's a couple things I mentioned on the video. I don't know if I mentioned about, in the post, I mean. I don't think I mentioned about the advanced decline. For being up 158 points today, almost 159 points, the advances versus declines was less than 2 to 1. It was 1.85 up for every 1 down. That's not very strong. That's not a strong move. And that's a weaker upside move than we had yesterday to the downside. Okay, and on the NASDAQ, there were 1.5 stocks up for every 1 down. So not very strong either. So let's take a look at the S&P 500 again. You can see this choppy, nothing but sideways action that we're in. That's the best I can tell in terms of what we're doing. We're just drifting sideways in this range area. Let's see, the NASDAQ. Of course, the NASDAQ had this nice trend down here into mid-April. And then came back up here, April 22nd again. And since April 22nd, it's been lower, but it's been a choppy sideways move ever since that time. So we're still holding this head and shoulders pattern in here. I'm not seeing it, invalidated yet. So that's my best look at what we're seeing in here. Well, I hate when it does that. I've got to figure out how to get this volume adjusted. These little nuances. It's a great charting package made of stock, but there are little nuances, but you're going to have that, I guess, with almost any charting package. So the DI minus is above the DI plus in here. So negative again, which is to be expected given the action on NASDAQ. Now I'm going to move right into the short-term trading index. It's interesting how we literally have almost gone from one extreme to the other in 2 days. The reading up here was 2.04, and then all of a sudden we're back down here with a close of 0.72, fairly bullish reading. But again, when we look at the 10-day exponential moving average of these readings, we're right in the middle where we've been for, quite a while, just going back and forth sideways, especially since, like we talked about, April 22nd. So, all right, the volatility index, this is interesting to me. So when you look at this, what's the reading? 11.91. Okay. There have only been 2 times since February 2007 that we have closed below 11.91, at 11.91 or lower. Back here, August 5th at the top, right before we corrected. Okay. And then you got to go back to March, which is kind of weird anomaly that we got that in March of 2013. Other than those 2 readings, well, actually, I guess we do have 1 reading. I apologize. Well, no, I just talked about that. I didn't move this over far enough. So August 5th and then March. Those are the only 2 readings. As you scan back, I'd put that line right where we closed today. There are no VIX readings below that line. Line disappears because we're so high. and you got to go all the way back. You start to touch it here, but you didn't close below it. You got to go all the way back to February and before, February 2007, back into 2006, before you get any kind of VIX readings like that at all. Now, the other thing that's interesting here is look at these divergences, okay? So we had this at the August top. The VIX went to this low, but the indicator did not. And at the January top, right before the big January slide, the indicator did not. Now the thing here, it was in a little bit of oversold territory. Here, it did not get to oversold. Here, today, it has not gotten oversold. Now, this has not completed yet. You haven't gotten a rally off of this or in the VIX. So it could continue to come down if the VIX were to go even lower. So this is just a tentative divergence, okay? This is what I'm calling this. A tentative possible divergence showing up. This one's validated because it moved away from it, from that point, okay? This point has not totally been made yet, but I'm anticipating as a possibility. So that's what I'm watching for. That's what I'm looking at in here. Could get really interesting because after you had these divergences, you had pretty decent little moves coming off of them. So that's the VIX. All right, let's take a look at semiconductors real quick. Semiconductors, I think, are in this descending triangle here at the top. Doji started today for, you know, the big move up in the market. And so down, up, and basically over the last 2 days, you've gone nowhere. I mean, what did it close? 44.95 and today 44.99. So I still think we're looking at a potential here to the downside. Home builders is in a solid downtrend here, coming off the February-March top. It's broken this trend line from October, and we're in a solid downtrend. I don't see anything else in there, and I don't think. Let me look at the little bit of bullish divergence in here. So something may come into play. You're not seeing it on DI minus though, on the directional indicator. So just on the RSI, you're seeing some of this. And let's see. And the last one is the financial select. Okay, here we got this big trend line again from January, from the January-February bottom. And, you know, again, not a huge bounce today. Came back up. It's basically unchanged over the last 2 days, a penny difference, I think. So we'll see whether or not we continue to hold this and it comes up, or whether it breaks right down through that, that trend line. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is, I am going to look at Tesla tonight, and I'll tell you why here in a minute. I'm going to walk through the BRIC stocks. Start off with Brazil. So Brazil, it's interesting. Brazil's turned down over the last week, and there was some divergence in here. You know, very clear on the RSI that this move coming out of this pennant type of formation, this pattern, I got up here and it ran into this trend line, which I put in here, happened to see today. I thought maybe it included this point, but it wasn't really clear. It would have to be not quite that. It had to be a little bit lower point in here to include it, and it's probably pretty close. So you've really got a series of tops that are kind of in sync, and all of a sudden this move has run into that. Now, if it breaks up through that, that could be fairly significant, but right now, it looks like it's turning back down and being repelled from that trend line. Okay, the next one is Russia, the MISEX index. This is really interesting. I mean, Russia has really come back. You got DI plus above DI minus, so things are looking very bullish. This move has really, really been strong. Okay, and it actually is pretty surprising. I thought we were going to get another move down to at least test this low. It just didn't happen. And we've really retraced about 80% of this down move. From this high to this low, we've retraced about 80% at this point. Now, it may run into some resistance. Let me get this low. If you look at the lows here, between the lows here, bring it across, actually, it's bursted up through it today. With today's actions kind of coming back through that. Now, it'll be interesting to see if it starts to run into, I would expect that it would start to run into some selling here fairly soon. But anyway, that's what's happening with Russia. I guess they really feel like maybe the pressure is off, and maybe the deal with China is helping the markets. I mean, who knows? All right, the next one is India. The Nifty 50 on India. Okay, this was this big move back last Friday when it was finally announced the results of the election, and the perceived business-friendly candidate, etc., has won, and so they're still celebrating over there, I think. So this has been one heck of a move, and it looks pretty bullish at this point. And we've talked about how much of a breakout this is in this stock market. I mean, you look at this; that's a heck of a move. Now, you may get some pullback coming back at some point here, but nothing goes up forever. But that's hats off to that move. Okay, and the last one is China, is Shanghai Index. There you go, Shanghai Composite. All right, this is interesting. This is tried over the last week to test this lower channel in here, okay? And what we got today looks like what we call a double key reversal day. It has come down to a lower low, reversed all the way back up, and is closed literally not only above the last two closes, but literally above the entire trading range of the last 2 days. So it's a huge outside up bullish encompassing day. And this could really take this. It's going to be fun to watch and see whether this launches this thing all the way up to take on this, and maybe there's the big move coming. I don't know. It's a pretty bullish looking reversal to me. So we'll have to watch and see in here, because this is in this big, symmetrical triangle that looked what it looked like. Remember, we talked about this one or 2 weeks ago. I can't remember which. Okay, that's it for now. Let's dive into some of the Chinese stocks now. Jinko Solar. Okay, this still looks like a big head and shoulders top. No bullish divergence of any kind, although we did have a move up to the upside here. When you look at the projected move down off of this head, that's down to this level here. So no real change in that program. It started to break out. Little tentative action in here in my book. It doesn't look as bearish in terms of the type of break you would like to see, but we'll just have to see how this plays out. That's my best scenario that I've got in terms of the way that looks. We look at BIDU ADR. Now this is another one that looked like a big topping formation. And I don't think this has invalidated this at all. It could be that this one is all the way over here. This will be this shoulder will start to get a fail if I get a close above the high here, I think. To me, I would start to say, okay, this is really suspect. This may be failing. It just could be that there's just more backing and filling going on, trying to fill out this shoulder. But I don't know. We'll have to watch. I mean, it's looking, it looks like it's trying to push to the high side. So again, this is the point, I think, of critical, do or die on this on that pattern. Okay, SINA. Where's SINA? There it is. Pretty negative down channel. Downward trending channel, and we're all the way down here. I don't think we're getting much in terms of bullish divergence. A little bit here, and actually it's probably more than I thought there'd be, but we're not seeing, it's just we're not getting a turn. We're not getting hardly any trading above the 10 at all. Back here they made a little bit of a move, but again, this is typical of bear market type moves, okay? When you're in a bear market and a bear move, let's call it, not just a bear market, a bear move, you get these sharp rallies. These are very characteristic of bear moves, okay? Very sharp rallies, and then it resumes. Very sharp rally, then it resumes to the downside. So we're stalling out a little bit down here. We're just going to have to look to see, do we start to get a turn? Do we get to 10 above 21? Right now it looks negative. The next one is Metro Crown Entertainment. Melco. keep wanting to say Metro. I don't want to say Melco. Here, this is an interesting little deal here where this is like coiling up. Okay, not only are the bars themselves, the bodies inside each other, but the entire day's range are inside each other in here. So this is a really tight little coil. We're going to get a strong pop one way or the other. And of course, the trend is to the downside. We're not oversold here on the RSI. DI minus is showing a little bit of bullish divergence where it didn't go to a lower low, but not super strong. So again, you got to stick with the trend until it tells you differently. You know, the trend is your friend until it tells you differently. So right now, I'd have to say that that's probably going to burst to the downside, but let me look at the volume. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. All right, dang, this is interesting. Where's dang? E-commerce China dang. Okay, this stock, I mean, look at this stock on a big play here. They had this big symmetrical triangle, had this huge burst, and the volume was incredible. Okay, I've got these various indicators. Look at this volume on this move out of that triangle. The volume is incredible. But the other thing I want to point out here as we start to look at this, we had a dotted line dropped across here because we thought it looked like maybe a neckline, some potential, and maybe we're getting a big head and shoulders and get this move. But now, after this huge explosion and big move up, now it's pulled all the way back, and it didn't stop here. It's pulled back down to here, and I would be surprised to see it get through this to the downside. I think there's been some negative PR out and some negative stuff in the press. I can't remember for I don't know why I want to say that. Maybe I saw something on a blog, you know, anyway, it's just pulled back, and we're back in an area where, to me, it should start to get support, and it got a little bit of that coming in the last couple of days. Now, the other thing that's kind of interesting about this is when you look at this on a bigger, let's look at it on a weekly. It's not going to show the days this week because it doesn't take the concurrent, it just shows completed weeks on here. This could be a head and shoulders from this perspective, that we got a shoulder that's still developing, okay? That it's this kind of big move. And the interesting thing, when you have a big bottom like this, you want to see big volume coming in here in this move from the head to the neckline. Well, look, take a look at the volume. The volume was dead back in your head, and all of a sudden right here, as it made its move, huge volume. Volume started to ramp up, and then huge volume on that break. So that's what starts to lead me to believe that maybe this is going to start to get some support. And let me go back to the daily on here. The other thing is, and I need to move off this pretty quickly. We're going pretty long tonight. When you draw a parallel line to this neckline, okay, and you draw it from this shoulder out here, this is where I would anticipate the low end of the shoulder at the lowest, okay? And so then you start to say, well, okay, here's some support points in here. So maybe between, you know, these support points and this should be maybe, you know, that should be it in terms of the bottom. At some point, you got to create an uncle point. You got to say, okay, you know, I'm done. This thing's failing. It doesn't look like it's going to turn at all. And you have to do that. I mean, for some people, you did that up here. Maybe, you know, as it started to come back and you're willing to get out after, you know, you got below the trend line's crossed, or, you know, moving averages crossed or whatever. But if you're still in, you got to sit back and decide at some point in here that that's going to be enough. You know, like maybe it's 7.5, maybe it gets below 7.5 and you're done. I don't know. I mean, that's a decision only you can make depending on what you've done if you're where you're in the stock. So that's my best estimate on Dang. And we're going to take one last look at Tesla. And Tesla, because one of my subscribers said, hey, why don't you look at Tesla since they're launching into China and, you know, kind of wrap it in with the Chinese stocks that we talk about. So I thought, okay, let's go ahead and do that tonight. A month ago, I think it was about a month ago, they announced going into China with the Tesla cars. So it's interesting what's going on here with Tesla. This looks a little distorted because it's on the semi-log and it's had some big moves, but we've got a little bit of a channel going on here. And this rally here, to me, isn't on strong volume. Okay, if you look at the volume here, it's not on strong volume. The volume's been dropping off with this, and it looks like a counter type move. To me, if this was not a counter type move, you get more abrupt, you know, move vertical and then sideways, or pull back vertical, sideways. You're just not getting it. You're kind of this slant, kind of like this. Okay, slant against the trend, then you burst out. Okay, you pull back against the trend, you pull back against trend, and it's not dramatic, you know, like in here, but that's what this looks like to me, like a counter move against the trend, and then we're going to drop on out of that and come on down here. So that's my best take on what Tesla is up to. We'll just have to watch and see. That's it for tonight. Okay, we'll let everyone go. I appreciate you staying with me. And again, I'd be very appreciative of it if you would share this, if you're a subscriber, share the email with your friends. And if you're not a subscriber, subscribe, get email updates and access to the Trade Ideas webpage, and share the post on social media and the video. So this has been Joe for Beyond the Chart. Thanks for stopping by. Have a great Thursday. Talk to you tomorrow night.